Hey everyone, and welcome back to my channel. So I am barefaced, so naturally today is a review, and as you can see from the title, I am reviewing the new Colourpop No Filter Foundation. I picked up the concealer, which I've never tried before. I got the pressed powder, I got the loose powder, so we're going to be testing the entire new and I guess kind of new Colourpop complexion products. If that's something you're into, make sure to keep on watching. And please don't forget to subscribe because I do upload twice a week, and that is the best way to stay up to date on all the fun stuff I'm posting. So without further ado, let's get right into the video. So I did already prime my skin, I did my brows, and I set my eyes with all of my normal stuff. I'll list it down below, but I didn't want to try out like new primers or anything when I'm messing around with new complexion because I really want to give this stuff its best chance. So this just launched actually like last week. It is $12. It comes in 42 shades, I believe. I didn't get the whole PR. I actually ordered it because I'm not on PR lists. That would be crazy. So I hope that it is the right shade. I only ordered one, and the reason I was going to test this, and this is just going to kind of go into that, is I went in and it said put in your foundation shade, and I put in that I am Fenty 200, which for me is the perfect match, and it said that light 60 was my perfect foundation shade. They said it's going to be a little bit warmer than my Fenty, so this might be a little warm on me, but this is the closest match. And then underneath in the drop-down box, it recommended the light pressed powder, the translucent setting powder, and light 20 for a brightening concealer. So rather than go in and try and like figure out my shades and everything else, I said I'm gonna trust it, and I only ordered their stuff. So no matter how this shade looks, I'm going to attempt a full day wear test out of this unless it looks that weird. So I'm just gonna start by applying. I'm gonna do one half with a brush and one half with a sponge. I did also get the F17 Colourpop foundation brush. I don't love a brush like this for buffing in my foundation, but as for applying it, I don't dislike it. So I'm going to just start by... It's definitely a little on the watery side, and it is looking a little light. So I'm just going to take it on one half of the face. This is gonna be like, I'm gonna call it 2.5 pumps. And I'm just going to blend that out with a sponge. So first thing I will say right off the bat is it definitely blended out to be a little bit more my shade. It does look a little light. However, my foundation is usually a little light because I do like to take my foundation a little lighter, then I go a little less on the concealer, and then I'll just go with a little more bronzer. But overall, it does look like a pretty good shade match. The coverage is a little bit more of a medium, but it definitely looks matte. It's not sticky on the skin. I'm still gonna set it, but it doesn't feel like it really needs to be set. I'm definitely certain that I am gonna get better coverage with a brush because I always do, but I'm gonna be taking the Sigma F80 and I'm gonna take the same 2.5 pumps and I'm just going to dot that and buff it on the other side of the face. So definitely more coverage when you go in with a brush. I am going to take the Beauty Blender just because I am liking the way that this side applied more, and I'm just going to soak up and blend in a little bit of that product, and just to give myself a little bit more of an even canvas. Normally, if I was just hanging out at home, just testing it and being like really low key, I would, you know, keep it looking a little bit more 50-50. But today I'm going out, I'm doing some things, going shopping with my mother and sister. So I really want this to actually look semi-presentable. So right off the bat, now that these sides are matching a little bit more, I'm definitely gonna say more of a medium coverage. I would not call this full coverage. It says that it's more of a medium full, and I'm sure that if I put on another layer, I could build this up. Actually, I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna add just a little bit more just to the under eye area and on the nose, which are the places I typically want a little bit more coverage. And let's just see how it builds up. Okay, so you could definitely, like now I'm a solid like medium to full coverage on the under eye. I could probably build this up even more. So I am gonna say that you can build this to full coverage. This is about as far as I'm gonna take it today because again, it is kind of a low-key day for me. So I'm gonna call that on the foundation and let's jump into concealer. So again, for concealer, I did get the one that they recommended with this foundation. It is Light 20. Hey everyone, so editing Brett here. Looking back on this, I said Light 20 a couple times in this video. The shade of the concealer is actually Light 12. I have no idea what I was saying, but definitely Light 12, not Light 20. I'm gonna grab my Shape Tape just to do a side-by-side because this looks very light. And I mean really light. So that's my shade in the Shape Tape. Ah, I love a brand new wand. And oh yeah, that's much lighter. So, and that light one next to it is the Colourpop. So I'm definitely going to be going in with a fairly light hand and only using what I need as opposed to really caking it on. When I go in with a shade that's a little darker, like this will still brighten the under eye, but it won't look quite so stark in comparison. But I am going to just kind of dot this on the under eye. I've seen a lot of reviews on this, and I've seen a lot of people who love this. I have actually never tried it before, but I have heard less is definitely more. And that was no additional product. I was just kind of blending out a little bit of what was already there. And because this is so light, I am going to take a sponge today. Okay, that's actually blending out very nicely and into a nice bright color. If you ever have something where you have too much like brightness or it's too light of a color, go in with a sponge instead of a brush, because if you go in with a brush, you'll definitely get more of that pigmentation. Yeah, this is blending out really nicely. So I will say that that went on very nicely. Like, I'm surprised at how nice the color is. On the monitor, it's not looking super warm like I thought it would. It's actually coming down quite nicely. I've already blended around the nose like 3 times, and the product is grabbing a little bit just in this area, which obviously is not desirable. For that, I am gonna go in with a brush and see if I can just like really buff that product out. Okay, that ended up working well with a brush. That's not necessarily a fault to the concealer. I do have products I prefer to apply with a brush versus a sponge. That concealer just around the nose went on much better with a sponge. So next, jumping into the translucent setting powder, I'm just going to instantly and immediately set down the under eye with the tip of the sponge, just so that we don't crease. And I'm just gonna take that anywhere we put the concealer. So that is also already giving me like a very smooth, soft, filtered effect. I love when a good setting powder really just kind of cancels everything out. So it's been a few minutes and I've already baked, so I'm just gonna get any of that powder off just to see if we've left any white cast and how everything looks. So right off the bat, nothing is really caking up, nothing is looking super powdery. I am getting a little bit of my texture coming through on the skin right here, not much. I'm not gonna say that that happens with every product I use. It does happen with some, so it's not gonna be an official write-off for the product, but it definitely is, you know, something to think about. So to set the rest of the face, I'm gonna go in with the Colourpop Sheer Pressed Powder. This is in the shade Light. I've been seeing a lot of different people with my similar skin tone going into the medium shade because it is so sheer, but you know, when you swatch it a little bit, this definitely looks like more my shade. So, and this is the one they recommended. So I'm just gonna take a light dusting of this and I'm gonna press that anywhere that I did not take the loose powder. Okay, so from a complexion standpoint, I'm actually really happy with the base that this gave me. A lot of times when I go in with a new combo, I'll feel like it'll really not match my neck. Like this is definitely a little lighter, but once I go in with bronzer, it's really gonna kind of all play well together. So right now, all in all, I am enjoying how the application went on. Obviously, application is not 100% a guarantee for how it's going to wear, but it's definitely a good indicator because if it doesn't go on smooth, I know I'm not gonna like it. So the only thing on top of this I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna see how well powders blend on top of the powders. Because it is daytime and I'm not going in super hardcore today, I'm just going to grab a fluffy brush and my Marc Jacobs bronzer. I'm gonna kind of use this to contour and bronze today. Okay, so we're not getting any patchiness. Nothing is really grabbing to anything. Everything's kind of blending on smooth. The one thing I will say just across the board is like where this brightness is, it's a little bit stark for what I like. So I might recommend if you're gonna get the foundation, concealer, and everything, go like whatever the darker one in your undertone would be, like go down a shade. So if it's light 12, I think the next one would be light 18. Go in with something like that because it is a little bit stark for me, but it just means that I'll go a little bit lower on my shimmering highlight, so it's really not that big a deal. So first issue, as I was blending the bronzer into the hairline, there is a little bit of like a powder buildup. I'm not sure if that's from the translucent powder mixing with wet foundation. I'm not sure what that's from, but that is giving me like this really weird powdery residue up here. So that's just something to think about. I'm gonna take a little bit of setting spray on my sponge and just kind of press that out just to fix it. Okay, that is all better. It was an easy fix. I'm hoping that that was a fluke and that's just not like a sign that this is gonna bunch up and get gross. So I'm just going to finish up the rest of the face and I'll be right back. Okay, so that is the finished look. I'm going to go through my day and I'll do some check-ins. The one thing I do want to say, and this is no shade to anybody in particular, there were a few people who did it, but there were several people who, when reviewing this stuff, said they weren't going to set their foundation, they just wanted to see how it wore. And I'm just like, of course I set my foundation. Like, I always set my foundation like 3 times. I did the same thing I always do today. The only thing I did is I skipped the illuminating setting spray and I did not go overboard on the highlight because I really wanted to make sure that if something was shining through, it was oil. I don't want to like make this look worse than it is by adding all this shimmer everywhere so I get extra greasy. So like for all those people who were reviewing it and they were like, I'm not going to use any setting spray. I mean, come on, give it a fair chance. So I am not going to be doing touch-ups though. I did see a couple people like they carried this around for touch-ups throughout the day. Obviously, like if a foundation applies well, typically you could touch it up well. Anybody who, you know, knows how to wear foundation can touch it up. So give me a pressed powder and a sponge or blotting papers. I can make anything last throughout the day. The question is, how long will this last if like I'm going to an event and I don't have time to run to the bathroom and powder every so often? So I'm gonna do some check-ins throughout the day and I will let you know how this goes. Okay, so I am a little later in filming my first check-in than I had originally anticipated. It is 3:45 now. I hope you can see the clock. Yes, it is 3:45 now. It is a little bit later than I had wanted to. From a distance, this is actually looking really pretty and really nice. However, when you zoom in, you will see I'm already getting quite a bit more creasing under my eyes than I normally do. That is the concealer. And I'm starting to get a little bit shiny on the nose area. Nothing overly horrible. It's been about 3 hours. I finished, it was almost 1 o'clock. So for 3 hours in, this isn't bad. Again, this is something that a little blotting powder would take down or a blotting paper. But, you know, that is just something that if you're looking for something really long-term, this is not going to really keep your oils at bay. I mean, like, yeah, that is greasy. So I am going to continue to see how it lasts, continue to see if it breaks apart anywhere. Obviously, the concealer, like, I'm actually really liking how the brightening is looking. So, like, if I was to go in with a concealer up here and then just use the Colourpop down here to brighten, maybe that's something. But I know for a lot of people, they don't want to, like, go in with 2 concealers, 9 powders, the works. So if you want something minimal, that might not be great for you. But personally, I'm seeing creasing. So I'll check in a little bit later with another update. But yeah, as of right now, the concealer is the first no. Okay, so it is 5:30. We're at the 5.5 hour mark. And what I will say is if I get in close, I'm really shiny and it's starting to pill up on the tip of the nose, which is not great. I don't like accentuating pores. Also, all of it, supposedly no filter, like my pores are coming through, my texture's coming through, like all in all, it is not doing what I was hoping it would. It looked really good for the first like hour and a half, but when I saw my mom and I got out of the car, first thing she said was that it looked very heavy and it looked very cakey, which are 2 things I really don't like. I do go in with a lot of powder, but I really pride myself on setting it down and taking away a lot of that like textury powderiness. So for it to be cakey is not desirable. So all in all, I'll probably do one more check-in at about 8 o'clock or so at the 8 hour mark, but for now, looks great from a distance, up close not so much. Maybe it's something I'll use if I'm like going out to dinner or doing something light, but if I'm doing anything for like throughout the day, long term, it's probably not gonna be my go-to. Okay, so it is 7:45, so we are just shy of the 8 hour mark and back in the studio under studio lighting. First thing I will say is, do you see how shiny I am? I have not touched up, I have not done anything. That's not true. While we were out shopping, I did stop at the MAC counter and I did take a quick spray of the new Fix Plus Matte, just because I was like, it was really shiny and I kind of wanted to do a little bit of like salvaging. And honestly, I don't think it did all that much. It was a little too far gone at that point. So it is, just get a mirror and go in really close. So first thing I will say is it is bunching a little weird in here around the nose, like just in this area right here. And actually this side's not as bad, but on this side it's breaking apart. Everywhere else, it hasn't rubbed off around the lips, it hasn't rubbed off on the nose, but it is very shiny. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go in with a powder brush and I'm gonna take a little bit of the sheer blotting powder and see if I can like recover this a little bit just by taking some blotting powder. So obviously that's not going to save the breaking apart on the side of the nose, but that really did help to kind of take down the shininess. I know that powders do that, but this powder definitely like re-blurred everything and kind of reinvigorated the foundation. So what I will say, I guess, is this is a pretty good foundation if you're going to be wearing it out and about. It is definitely something that I would take a powder with you for touch-ups. This is not something like when I go in with my Fenty and Dior combo, my Hourglass and Dior combo, any of those by themselves, the Makeup Forever Ultra HD foundation stick, I'm opening my drawer so I can see, MAC Studio Fix, Maybelline Superstay, like any of those which are like my favorites in the rotation, I always bring a powder to touch up, but I never feel like I have to. With this, I definitely felt like touching up throughout the day is gonna be more necessary. But for $12, adding a touch up, not something I'll wear to somebody's wedding, not something I'll wear to an event, but if I'm just hanging out going shopping and I have time to like check in and check it out and really like touch up throughout the day, then I definitely will. But as far as for long wear, I would definitely say that this is a no-go. The concealer for me, looking in, it did not deteriorate any more under the eyes. It's just that initial creasing and settling. So what I will say is that it was really good for brightening, and I would use it again. I'm gonna play around with it with a different foundation. Maybe it was the foundation breaking apart, just like around the nose and in the oils that was a problem. So maybe if I layered this over a different foundation, I might have a better result. Typically, I do better when I have something with the same brand, like Maybelline and Maybelline work well together, stuff like that. But I'm definitely going to try to see how these kind of work separately. So thank you very much for watching. Just to sum it all up, foundation is a meh. Concealer, I'm gonna have to play around with a little bit more. I really like the pressed setting powder. And the loose one, I think, is what's responsible for everything pilling up in the nose area. I'm definitely gonna have to play around with it some more, not all together. And you will definitely be seeing these in more videos to come. But I definitely wanted to, at least to start, try them all together. The one thing I will say is I'm actually very happy with the color now that everything is on and has come down over the course of 7.5 hours. So yeah, thanks again for watching. I will see you next time. Bye.